Estamos aquí con el doctor Michael Hall. El doctor Michael Hall es el originador, el creador de Neurosemantics. En los últimos 12 años viene desarrollando una metodología de coaching que se le ha denominado meta-coaching. Yo estoy aquí con él, lo voy a entrevistar y vamos a tener una conversación los dos sobre diferentes aspectos para hacer claro no solamente qué es metacoaching, sino también las opiniones que tiene Michael sobre el coaching ejecutivo en general. Hay un libro que acaba de ser publicado por Michael, se llama Executive Coaching. Es un libro que Michael trabajó sobre la dinámica de los ejecutivos en las organizaciones y es un libro que a mí particularmente me ha impresionado grandemente. Entonces, yo quisiera comenzar, voy a pasar al inglés. Michael, welcome and thank you for allowing us to have this interview with you. Yeah, I would like to start asking you to share briefly to become interested in coaching in general. How is that? Tell us a little bit about your background.
Okay, so the first experience in coaching was when I interviewed an executive coach in 1997 in Florida, Dan Begley, Dr. Begley. He had been a college professor, left his professorship, became an executive coach, and I interviewed him for the sake of modeling what coaching he was doing. And that just fascinated me as to why he would leave a professorship to go into executive coaching.
And let me interrupt you. Why did it fascinate you? What gained your interest?
Well, he actually had tenure at the university.
Yeah.
And to give up tenure for this thing called coaching,
Yeah.
which was brand new. It was 5 years old in the United States
Yeah.
at the time. To me, it was like, what's going on? What's wrong with your brain? Why would you make that change?
Okay.
And as I interviewed him, and he told me about all the fascinating things he was doing with corporate executives and a number of different organizations he had been working for. His work was much more fascinating than what he was doing at the university. The surprising thing was he was earning about 4 times as much.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so
with companies.
With companies.
Mainly with companies.
So anything that's going to pay 4 times what a tenured professorship pays got my interest.
That's I like that. And what happened then?
So finding out what he did got me interested in the field. So I started paying attention to articles in journals and a few books that were coming out about it. And then a few years later, I had the opportunity to do some more interviewing in Sydney, Australia,
Yeah.
with some expert coaches. And that's when we decided to begin doing some coach training to prepare people for the field.
Oh, okay. But let me go a little bit back in history. What you were doing at the time you got interested in coaching? What is your background, very briefly? And
so previous, almost 10 years previous to that, I'd been in the field of NLP.
NLP, yeah.
And we were, so the idea of modeling,
Yes.
people doing excellence in different areas.
Can you explain that term? You have used it already twice. Modeling,
Yeah.
for the people that are watching
Okay.
us. What is modeling?
Well, modeling is finding the structure of an experience.
Okay.
How a person inside and on the outside do whatever they do. So modeling is being able to pull out the variables, the elements in the system, how they think, the structure of their thinking and emoting that allows them now to engage in certain competencies that allow them to do whatever excellence they do in their field.
And what is the presupposition behind that? I mean, what do you model a person? Why do you model all these things you are mentioning?
Yeah.
What do you do with that?
Well, the presupposition behind it, the assumption,
Yeah.
is that every behavior, there's structure, that it makes sense. To the person doing it, it makes sense.
Okay.
If we can find that, we can accelerate learning, we can accelerate the transference of that information, that knowledge, so that other people don't have to have a whole lifetime of experience in order to be able to do that.
Oh, that's quite interesting. So you start modeling coaching then, and what led you to start working in this field, which I am very impressed about it. I have been studying with you for the last 12 years, I think. What led you to create what you call meta coaching? Tell me a little bit about the history, how it develops. Tell us a little bit about it.
Well, to go back really far in history, we'd go to the beginning of NLP,
Okay.
when the founders of NLP modeled 3 expert communicators,
Okay.
Virginia Satir, Fritz Perls, Milton Erickson,
Yeah.
and was able to transfer their skill level to themselves in a very short time.
Wow.
And so they accelerated that learning. So that started the field of NLP.
Okay.
A number of years later, I modeled the special kind of consciousness that we humans have, self-reflexive, recursive consciousness. And by
that
looking,
sounds very heavy.
well,
I mean,
it's just the fact that we don't just think.
Okay.
Whenever we think, we simultaneously think about our thinking.
Okay.
Whenever we have a feeling, we don't just feel, we have feelings about our feelings.
Okay.
So someone afraid might get angry at their fear.
Oh, I see.
And someone angry might become afraid of their anger. And so this is that reflexiveness. It is the systemic kind of consciousness that we have. And so by modeling that, that allows us now to model really complex human states. Like leadership,
Okay.
like how to delegate, like being comfortable in your skin,
Okay.
confident in what you do, like entrepreneurship.
So you start modeling the self-reflective consciousness of people and the structure of that.
Yeah.
And that is how meta states as a model became alive.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's part of the story.
That's part of the story.
Yeah.
So I was modeling resilience. How do some people, when they get knocked down, just immediately bounce back up
Wow.
and they don't stay down?
Okay.
And it's more than just having a belief or just having a decision. It's layers of thoughts and feelings.
Layers of thoughts and feelings.
Yeah.
Okay.
And these layers, one layer may be, I'm not going to be defeated. Another layer may be, I can always come back.
Okay.
Another layer may be, I'll learn from this. Another layer may be, it's about what I'm doing, not who I am.
I see.
So there's layers of consciousness that makes up this gestalt, this thing that's more than the sum of all those parts,
Okay.
what we call resilience.
Mm-hmm.
And so that set us up for the coaching to enable people who don't need psychology, don't need psychotherapy,
Okay.
but they do need, how do I take the next step in my development for becoming everything I can become as a leader, as a human being, as a business person. And so that started the coaching area. And so I met 3 people in Sydney, Australia, who were already well known in the field of coaching as expert coaches.
Okay.
So I interviewed them, modeled them, and they in fact was with me on the very first meta coaching training so that I could continue the interviewing during that training and transfer that information to the coaches.
Okay. We are talking about what year?
That was 2002.
2002. Okay. And what happened next? I mean, how? Because you have written already 11 books on the field of coaching, and specifically from the standpoint of meta coaching. What happened then? What you got so interested in this field?
Well, Yeah, interviewing the expert coaches and seeing the response, and the fact that having read in the field and understood a little bit about the field and the key players in the field of coaching at that time,
Okay.
Realizing this is a trend of the future.
Oh, can you repeat that phrase, please?
Well, this is a trend of the future.
Okay.
This is
How come?
the direction that business is going.
Okay.
Business, because change is so predominant,
Uh-huh.
the adults don't have time to go back to university.
Mm-hmm.
The adults have to be learning, and they have to be learning faster. They have to be learning more thoroughly, more solidly, whatever's going on. They have to be on the cutting edge of accelerated learning. And so, as Tom Peters has said, as other people have noted, the company where the people are learning faster will be on the cutting edge of technology and of change, and therefore dominate the markets.
I got it. So those motivations were behind
Yeah.
this interest you got in coaching.
Yeah.
How could you define, I'm talking specifically about your book and executive coaching, many of the people who are, that are going to see this video are executives from organizations. How do you define executive coaching, Michael?
So we essentially say it's any coaching for any senior manager or anybody living in the C-suite. So CEOs and CFOs and COOs, anybody at that level of leadership who's doing the executive visionary leadership for a company.
Okay, so it is something created basically for leaders,
Right.
for people that are guiding organizations,
Right.
leading organizations.
Because they're the ones who have to know about the trends of the future and to keep the company current if they're going to be innovative enough to stay on the cutting edge of what's happening. Because markets are coming and going. They're coming and going so fast. And how do we help the leaders? How do they get some reflective time to think about where are we leading and what could be going on that we're not aware of that we really need to be aware of?
Yeah. In your experience and in your research, what have you find that are the key points an executive, let's say somebody who is starting his career as an executive, needs to take into account?
So what executive coaching does not do is spend time on the business part.
Okay.
Because most executives know more about business than any coach coming into that room is going to help them with. What they need is how to deal with relationships, all of the multiple relationships in the business, with the managers they're leading, with the board that they're making executive decisions with the stockholders, with the stakeholders, with the public, with just all of the relationships and the relationships back home. So they don't lose their family, they don't lose their friends, their colleagues, their loved ones while they're doing this. So helping them to stay balanced, helping them to not get stressed out with all of the demands that's on their plate.
What are the typical problems you think an executive, when he or she start to develop a career, we might encounter? What are the typical ones and that a coach can address?
Yeah. So one of the typical ones, especially in a larger organization, and this comes from the work that a number of researchers have developed, that's called the pipeline.
Okay.
That as a person moves up a pipeline, and the authors pictured it as a zigzag picture, as they move up, one of the problems, and we've known this for decades, is people promoted to levels of competence.
Okay, of incompetence.
Incompetence.
Okay.
So how does that leader develop the competence for the next level and the next level?
Okay.
How does the leader release competencies developed that got them there that's not going to take them to the next level? So this is ongoing learning. So grooming a person to to manage new values, new allotment of time, new skills that they're going to have at this next level. So how do we groom people to step up, and they're not just glorified managers?
What do you mean by glorifying managers?
So Peter Drucker and other thinkers in the field of business say that most companies are overmanaged and underled.
Can you explain a little bit more about that?
So most companies are micromanaged, and people are treated like they don't have brains, they don't know how to get things done.
Yeah.
So higher level managers are doing what junior managers ought to be doing.
Oh, I see.
And so what they should be doing, which is leading, thinking about the future, and creating vision, and helping people in the organization to get the meaning of what's going on, that's being missed. So companies are overmanaged, underled, and what they need to do is to step up into the visionary leadership role at the executive level, and that's what's missing in so many companies.